to the stream. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. All right. We are live drafting in the Drafter'S Bestball Championship. I brought on my pal, Anthony Amico. How you doing, buddy?
Doing awesome, man. This is great. I feel like I'm getting called up to the big leagues here.
Yeah, that's right. No, yeah, I've been enjoying doing I do the randomizer drafts. We get funky on Friday nights, but I've also been wanting to actually draft in this contest, putting together actually good teams. I did one with Sal and Davis last week, and you and I think pretty similarly about these kind of contests and drafting in general. So I guess I was looking not for a lot of disagreements. I just want to come on and have a hunky-dory 0 RB time.
Sometimes you got to just take all the T away and just go 0 RB and find someone that'll do it with you. I totally support it.
That's right. So yeah, if you guys, basically these are just rolling drafts. The last few that I did, that I just mentioned, those were in the old contest. They had gotten up the new contest now, which is similar price point, but they made some changes that I really like in that they flattened out the payout structure. They went to 12 teams, and I believe they also changed it to a 45-second clock. What do you think about this payout structure, Anthony?
I mean, it's incredibly top heavy. I mean, we're fighting for first, like you can fight for first and finish 10th and be out like almost 10 grand. Like it's incredible.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what people want. People want to chase the big money up top. You're only paying $5.50 for this opportunity, so it's not like it's expensive.
Yeah,
so I get it.
Yeah, that's what I like about it is the price point is nice for firing off a lot of these. And yeah, I mean, the first one was even more top heavy to first. So this one, second place being at least half of first is not too bad. It seems like we are close here. We need 2 more people. Now you said that you've drafted any of these in this contest yet?
I just did one before, actually, like maybe like an hour or 2 ago, because I was like, I gotta prep,
What slot did you have?
I ran like super pure and got the 101. So I actually I got McCaffrey, and then I got to just not take another running back for like a decade after that.
See, this is a win-win for us because if we get an early, spot, we can take our running back, blah, blah, blah. But both you and I have the constitution to go very hard 0 RB. So I kind of want to get the people in a tizzy and watch us ignore running backs for like 7 rounds.
Pete, I think people are starting to question your constitution after your move at the 104 in Scott Fishbowl. I don't know. I don't know if Shane Battier would say you have the constitution.
Yes. My 0 RB bona fides have been called into question of late. I ruined a potential friendship with Shane Battier to take Saquon Barkley. This is our moment of truth, though, Anthony. Our draft is starting. Let's see. Do we have 0 RB in the cards for us today? We do not. We are in the 2 hole, Anthony. Come on. We wanted to give. I mean, look, this is a $5.50 draft. If we want to really own the libs and take Michael Thomas, like you can talk me into it if you'd like.
Wow. I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, maybe my constitution is not fortified enough. I don't know.
see. So
we're building a portfolio. Right? I mean, you gotta have some early round running backs.
This is what kills me, though. I was ribbing on Silva, and those guys are doing a main event draft. I think they had the 2 slot. They took Saquon Barkley, and then they followed it up with back-to-back RBs. And my thought is like, when you are given the gift of Saquon or Christian McCaffrey, you have to hammer those wide receivers at the 2-3 turn. It tilted me, Anthony. What do you do when you see those robust RB drafts? Do you get as enraged as I do?
Well, usually if I'm competing against them, it just makes me happy. It's like, just take a really fragile, dead zone running back with your 2nd or 3rd pick, and I'll just profit off of it. That's fine with me.
Some people in the chat are trying to push us towards MT12. Matt Jones, our buddy, Michael Thomas is the only answer here with the 0 RB in the title. Anthony, I think we should do it. Dude.
I mean, let's just do it. Who cares, dude?
Do it.
Let's do it.
Who will play Peter in Overzet, the 0 RB musical on Broadway? Any suggestions, Anthony, who you would like to see play me?
Well, I've been watching Down to Earth with Zac Efron, so maybe that could be you.
How is that show? I've heard mixed things.
I really like it, honestly. It's kind of eye opening, and some of the stuff is really cool. So if you can handle there's like some corniness, obviously, but if you can kind of deal with that, it's I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah. We are, screw it. We are going to show, hey, class. I know it's still summer, Anthony, but dare I say Zero RB class is in session and Peter and Anthony are about to take everybody to school.
Oh yeah. Let's do it.
I mean, even by my rankings, like I'm not a big Zeke guy this year. I in a lot of instances, push come to shove, don't mind taking Michael Thomas at 3. So taking him at 2, barely a reach. Boom, we are off to the Zero RB races.
Yeah. Band-Aid has been ripped off.
They always have to remind me. I always forget to go table grid mode. I do a million of these drafts. Here we are. We're in grid mode now, Anthony. So this is the back half now. That's going to put us at the back half of the second round. Let me see if I recognize any names in here. Eric Belair has never not been in a draft I've done. We got Willis is awesome in here. I recognize some of these names. What in general are we looking for here at the back end of the second round?
I mean, I think that like we're obviously looking for those high upside wide receivers if we can want to keep pounding away that position. But I think we should also give some consideration maybe to tight end.
Yeah.
Depending on kind of who comes back. I really like especially in these like tournament formats, those elite tight ends just have such a higher ceiling. Even if you get like a collection of, acceptable tight ends later, you really need to get those points from those big weeks that come from the early tight ends, I think, to get to the top.
Yeah, so there's very little chance that Kelsey Kittle comes back to us. I feel like one big kind of conversation topic that I actually haven't seen debated a lot, but is coming up in drafts is how much of a gap do you have between Mark Andrews and Zach Ertz?
Very little. And I've had to look over that maybe 10 or 12 different times over the summer because people that I really respect, you and Pat, Mike Beers, Sean, love Andrews this year. But I'm just having a really hard time projecting him to be that much different than Ertz just because, Ertz is so well insulated, I think, in terms of his target share.
Yeah. The who do you have higher in your ranks when push comes to shove?
I probably rank Andrews higher just because I think the ceiling is bigger, but they're 5 points apart in my projections.
Yeah, the thing that got me real spooked, because I've been drafting Andrews pretty aggressively, especially in the tight end premium leagues. But, we drafted him in our main event team that Pat and I are drafting. And then a few days later, I get a DM from someone of, did you know that Mark Andrews has type 1 diabetes and would be eligible for the opt-out? And my heart just sunk. Pat's been grinding the quotes. Apparently he told a bunch of diabetic children that he is going to play this year. But man, I am definitely spooked about it.
He's just a man of the people. I think too for him, it's one of the quotes I saw was just we're trying to run this thing back because we think we can win a championship. I'm not gonna sit out. I'm not even saying that that's the smartest thing to do because I think if I could die, I'd probably just tap it out. But sounds like he's gonna play. So
yeah, I mean, here's the thing. we're gonna be picking here in a second, and this can be an ongoing conversation. But I know you and I, people probably think we're extremists, we're crazy, but I truly believe, all bits aside, that this is setting up to be the greatest Zero RB season ever, and people are still pushing against it.
Yeah, it's so true. Because I forget who I was talking to last week about this, but the COVID stuff, Davis and I are kind of oh, well, this is even better for Zero RB. People will say, oh, well, receivers can get COVID too, and I'm yeah, but the backup receiver isn't going to be as good as the backup running back. If Tony Pollard gets in, it's over. He's an RB1. If, Julio Jones gets hurt and all of a sudden Russell Gage is seeing 95% of snaps, he's still going to be Russell Gage.
Yeah, to me, it's just such a disingenuous argument because it's so obvious that the running backs are benefits of more projectable volume increases. You could do the thought exercises with any 2v2 running back, wide receiver, and whoever you think the contingent value backup is behind them. And the running back is going to jump magnitudes more in ADP. We can circle back to this. Anthony, we are on the clock here. We got some receiver options here. Mike Evans, DJ Moore, Juju. Who do you like?
I This is like an area for me where I'm probably looking to like double tap more and Juju, because I just think that the upside on those receivers is really, really high. Or obviously we could pivot to one of the tight end options. But I think getting one of those two receivers with these two picks is pretty important to me, just because I think their ceilings are sky high. I think that they could easily be first round values.
Yeah, I definitely, I would lean towards going wide receiver tight end here. It's just the order and the specific preference that we want to do it. I think all of them will be there. Our targets would be my guess. You want to lock up DJ Moore?
I would actually prefer Juju, but you
Okay.
can take more if he's up. Yeah.
No. I want the Anthony special. I am definitely overexposed to DJ Moore, so I will diversify. In the Scott Fishbowl, I took both of them, which is always a nice answer. So this will actually be then a good thing. It sounds like you still like DJ Moore. You know, structurally, you know, the RotoViz best ball win rates have shown how big of an advantage it is to get one of these top tight ends here. Is it tough for you to pass on DJ Moore, or are you willing to do that for maybe the better macro structural build?
I'm going to favor the structure, I think, and I'm going to say that we go tight end here.
Okay, so now it comes down to our question. Are we worried about the type 1, or do we go in Ertz or Andrews here?
I mean, we already went Michael Thomas 102. Like we're just gonna take on the risk and go Andrews. Yeah,
let's do it. We're taking it all. We're trying to win 10,000 right here. What are we gonna do with our 10,000 when we ship it, Anthony?
Well, it's a good question, Pete. I was thinking we could just make a Vegas trip and we could just throw it on black and just turn it into 20,000. I don't know where you're at on that.
I kind of like that. I mean, I guess it depends where we are at with kind of casinos. You know, being inside a casino at a roulette table isn't necessarily my number one thing right now. I was thinking maybe we head down to Cabo. I was thinking margaritas on the beach, you know, something like that. But if you just want to let it ride, I mean, I'm down to gamble. So where it sounds like you have, you might be highest of anyone I know on Juju if you're taking him over DJ Moore.
Yeah, for me, it's just like I'm basically throwing last year out, and I still believe that this is going to be a really high pass volume offense. The Steelers threw it 42.5 times a game in 2018 and that first game last year, 2019, before Ben got hurt. And, you know, I mean, I guess we don't really know just how healthy he is, but it sounds like everything's kind of full go for now. And I just think that's like the ceiling that you get. I mean, you get a receiver who even at like a 20% target share is going to see like 150 targets if they keep that pass volume up. So
yeah,
I don't think that Juju has to, you know, I think Juju has upside for like even the 28% target share, but I'm just saying like, I think he's very, very well insulated and also has a high ceiling and is still a very talented player. So I love Moore and I take him a lot in a lot of these things too, but I still prefer Juju, I think, head up.
Yeah, no, I don't mind it at all. The only thing that's a bummer about our draft slot is you can get a little bit more of a discount on Juju in the mid to late third. So, you know, we obviously drafted him aggressive, slightly ahead of ADP, but we also wouldn't have had a chance at him coming back in the late fourth. So you got to go get your guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's like a legit like top 3 receiver for me. So that's
whoa, okay. Now we're getting real spicy here. So you have it Thomas, Adams, then Juju?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. You're definitely more aggressive than me, but like I see it completely, like over Golladay, over Godwin, even over Nuke and Julio. I think if, you know, for me, I think I do slightly prefer DJ Moore, and I would have a hard time taking him over Tyreek with Mahomes, but I see it, man. I see the upside case. Willis is drafting with us here. He is in what slot? The 4. Yeah, I'm pretty sad. Would have loved Juju, but I'll take DJ. So yeah, he was willing to scoop up whoever we didn't take there. You mentioned you did a draft earlier. You had an early pick on running back. What round did you then take your second running back?
I think maybe like round 9. And it was Keyshawn Vaughn. Like he kind of fell, at least I think, to me.
So let's start to talk now about you and I are going to have no problem finding wide receivers we like in the 4th, 5th, 6th round. With this kind of true zero RB build, what pocket of kind of running back tier are you looking to first start attacking it?
I think that like there's like that group of guys who I think are going to produce maybe some fantasy points in like rounds, like 8 or 9, where you can get maybe like a Tariq Cohen or maybe one of those guys who are in like a timeshare with a rookie, like one of those kinds of guys that will give you like a little bit of a floor. I'm not really looking to attack like the round 6, at least like in my drafts. I'm saying like the round 6 backs to me, I don't think are really exciting. The round 7 backs could be if someone falls, but I feel like you just end up getting like this huge surplus of viable running back targets from like maybe like round 8 through like round 12 that are all just really nice, potential values in terms of like day 1 production, and also guys who have that, continued value.
Yeah, and I think today was actually, there was a news snippet that was a perfect illustration of even showing everyone. A lot of people seem to agree about the running back trap zone, early 3rd through the 5th. But even with these 5th and 6th round guys, we see the Sean McVay report come out. I'm going to use a 4-way running back by committee, and it just goes to show you that you're passing over the Terry McLaurins and DJ Charks to draft Cam Akers, who might have just gotten relegated to a 4-way running back committee. And I know we can take coach quotes for a grain of salt, but to me, it just illustrates the risks you are taking on by passing up on those wide receivers with these more fragile running back propositions.
Yeah, especially since I think the target numbers are a lot more projectable, because that pecking order is based on things that we pretty much already know.
So we are going to be on the clock here in 1 pick. We have some good wide receiver options here, although we've seen quite the run. Evans, A-Rob, Brown, Keenan Allen just goes. Looking at these wide receivers available here, Diggs, Lockett, Sutton, Metcalf, McLaurin, we should be able to get 2 of these guys. Who do you prefer?
I think McLaurin's my favorite out of this group right now.
Yeah, I like McLaurin a lot. I'm going to add him, and then we will be coming back as well. The other thing we'll obviously have to start considering in this format is stack potential with some of these wide receivers. Obviously, with Michael Thomas, Juju, McLaurin, those are all pretty cheap stack options, whether that's desirable or not. But the Lockett, Metcalf, Diggs, those could present specific, more expensive stacks as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious what you think here, because I think I'm a little higher than the market on Diggs, but would probably still have Lockett ahead of him right now. But I don't know how you feel about that.
I'm a Diggs over Lockett guy. Pat and I had a long discussion about Metcalf versus Sutton. But with this build, I kind of like Diggs. What do you think?
That's fine with me, especially since I think, like you said, the quarterback option to stack with him is good. And I think like the correlation between a guy like Diggs and Josh Allen is going to be stronger than between maybe like some of these other options on the board, where it's like really the only way that Josh Allen has like a huge season is going to be Stephon Diggs doing things, because we just saw it with all these other guys.
Where are you? I feel like there's another battle raging on about Josh Allen. Can the rushing and the weapons buoy the fact that he's an objectively inaccurate and bad quarterback? Where are you on the Josh Allen battles?
I'm just trying to enjoy it, man. I think he's fun. He does things on the field that make you scratch your head, but I don't know. The guy has like all those gamer qualities that are enjoyable to watch, and he got a lot better last year. So I'm just gonna keep rooting for him, and we can judge his career when it's over. I don't need to like every week post the tweets where it's like, oh yeah, Josh Allen sucks. It's just it doesn't like add any joy to my life.
Well, then we see people like Scott Fish, who creates his fishbowl, and he bends the rules to make guys like Josh Allen even less attractive. I mean, poor Josh Allen is just taking it in every which direction.
Yeah, it's just it's the lack of inclusiveness in the fantasy community. We just don't want to refuse to let these guys who run have higher value.
I know. Okay, so we will be picking at the back half of the 6th. Do you think, put on your crystal ball, your look into your crystal ball, do you think we emerge with a running back on the 6-7 turn, or no? I'm
going to say probably not, but you never know. I mean, these drafts with you, like Everyone kind of modifies their strategy, so maybe someone ends up falling to us. But generally, I would say probably not.
Yeah, yeah. This range, it's still so tough to pass on, because then the second, we get past that Diggs and McLaurin tier, well, okay, now all of a sudden we're in the Tyler Boyd, Christian Kirk, Will Fuller, Michael Gallup tier. I mean, again, and then I constantly, I'll go look at the running backs. Do I want any of the running backs over those wide receivers? The answer is always no.
Never. What where are you on like the optimal roster construction for this kind of a thing, like in terms of like allocation?
Yeah, so I mean, I do think the optimal is, we've already passed it because we obviously would have drafted Saquon, and I do think it is getting that bell cow and then just nailing those scratch offs late. This year, right now, I don't know if you've been noticing this, and the thing Pat and I have been thinking about a lot lately is just how ADP is going to change. And every year we see some of these rookie running backs who get a little bit of buzz, and their ADP is going to skyrocket. Whereas right now, I just think guys from Zach Moss, Darrington Evans, Lynn Bowden, like these guys are all so cheap to what I envision their ADP being later. So that was a roundabout way of saying I do still think the optimal is to get that bell cow back. But again, that's maybe for just being generally profitable. For getting first place in this contest, I do think a hyper fragile strategy like this is the optimal.
Yeah, I like to be a little more extreme, definitely, in the tournaments, because I think what you'll see too is when you get to those playoff rounds or like the all play kind of rounds, like you want to have more live bullets in those rounds. So if you have like a unique roster construction, you're more likely, I think, to do that.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess one thing that will be interesting to us, if Josh Allen is available at this 6-7 turn, we have 4 quarterbacks off the board right now. I believe he's normally going like QB 6 after, or 7 or 8 after Watson and Wilson. Would you be interested in reaching for Allen to complete the stack, knowing we probably wouldn't get him in the late 8th?
Yeah, I would definitely consider it. I'm definitely on team you reach for stacks. I know like some people don't think that that's the move, but we just know so little, I think, like so much less than we think we do. So anytime you can just add correlation, I think that value is like implicitly greater than like just standard player value.
I might have screwed us by talking up how much I like those wide receivers, because then we see Will Fuller, Michael Gallup, and Tyler Boyd go. We might actually end up being forced to take a running back here. Oh,
never. They'll never make us do it.
Then we will never surrender. Never. Yeah. So I like this team a lot so far, and I think we have what it takes to scrap together some good running back targets late. And again, I do agree, depending on how this shakes out, especially if some of these wide receiver targets are gone, I think the opportunity cost for grabbing Josh Allen here becomes less and less.
For sure.
Let's see here. So you were in the Scott Fish Bowl. What did you end up being one of the last people to take a running back? You had to have been up there.
Yeah, I was the last up until
the last.
Okay. I don't know if someone in the last week or so took one later, but
who was your RB1?
It wasn't pretty. It was AJ Dillon and Antonio Gibson on the turn. I was so mad seeing Beers' draft because he used the same strategy basically as me and took his first running back in the same spot, and he got like all the good 0 RB targets, and I was at like the bottom of that tier, and it just made me so angry. I'm like, I'm pretty much already drawing dead to Beers. This is great.
Yeah, I know. That is the one thing about the Fishbowl, is the jealousy when people are taking similar lines as you, but they're getting better ADP values and guys falling. And you're like, what I am trying to do at my ceiling is a watered down version. That's how I felt looking at like Gretsch's lineup. And it just tilts you to know that they were gifted such a soft room.
Yeah, I listened to like a bunch of the shows, obviously you guys do. So it was great listening to Gretsch try to like talk his way around the quality of the draft that led to him having such a good team.
Yeah, I'm more quick to just be an asshole and call a spade, but Ben Gretsch, he's too likable. He's the politician. He's got to, keep his good name.
Just a classy guy.
All right, so we are about to pick here. I guess now the question is going to be the order here. If we are going to go with Josh, I think we can definitely wait to grab Josh Allen because Wilson and Watson are still available. If the one hole wants to grab him, that's fine. So for wide receivers here, I mean, I'm generally going Christian Kirk here. Is there anyone else you like more?
No, I actually really like Kirk also. So we're in agreement there.
All right, let's do it. Yeah, Pat doesn't like Kirk as much as I do. So whenever I'm away from him and I find another Kirk apologist, I got to take advantage of it. I mean, there's the decision we were just talking about. Do you want Christian Kirk or do you want Cam Akers? To me, it's just so obvious.
Yeah, I mean, as per the news that you were just talking about, but also like Kirk is still a really good prospect who has a really high ceiling. I don't think that like the Hopkins trade, I don't think really hurts him. I think it raises the ceiling of the whole offense.
For sure. I think that as well. The pie is getting bigger, and he's a great prospect. Whenever he's been on the field, he has produced well. And the thing that was frustrating about him last year is he was getting a ton of targets. They were just so low ADOT. And I think if Nuke inhabits some of that and they let Kirk, go down the field, which we saw in that game against Tampa Bay when he exploded, like we know he's capable of stretching the field and making big plays. So yeah, I'm excited about Kirk this year. Let's see. Christian Kirk, y'all playing FF 2019 must be an old video. Look at this guy. Look at this ignorant.
I feel like he's yelling at us in his avatar.
Yeah. We did get Josh Allen. It actually worked out perfect because Watson went one pick before us, then Russell Wilson went. So we actually got Allen right about where he would go as far as QB ADP, and then Matt Ryan goes right after as well. So I think that worked out well.
Perfect.
So I will say now, so we have 5 wide receivers, tight end, and our quarterback. We are probably starting to think about our first running back here in the 8th or 9th, unless you want to continue to push this further, which you can convince me.
Well, let's see how the board falls, because I think that there are some wide receivers left that would lead to an interesting discussion in terms of how to handle that.
Here's something to consider. And I'm curious how much you think about this. We have a lot of players right now with week 8 buys, Juju, Terry, Christian Kirk, and Mark Andrews. Does that concern you at all?
Not really a ton, just because we're still going to fill out a roster where we should have guys available. I mean, we probably don't want to push it any further than that at specifically like wide receiver, but I don't think that like having Andrews and Juju on the same buy or something is like a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, Anthony, it's just an excuse for us to continue drafting wide receivers because we need more wide receivers that don't have week 8 buys.
Got to fill it in.
That's right. Okay, let's see what we got going on here. Man, we did enter a little 0 RB run here. Kareem Hunt, Swift, Geis, Damian Williams, Ronald Jones all go off the board here. It does seem that the pocket we have fallen into in the draft, I feel like we're missing out on some of these runs. I was hoping like, a Ronald Jones might fall to us, but that's apparently a pipe dream.
Yeah, you can't run pure for 20 rounds in these things. It's okay. We'll figure it out. We're mind melding on this strategy right now. It's okay.
Speaking of which, where are you on the Ronald Jones, Keyshawn Vaughn battle?
I just want to continue to take whoever's cheaper. So when draft started, that was Ronald Jones, and now that's Keyshawn Vaughn. And I just think that the Bucs offense is going to be good, and if I can get cheap touches, then I'll just take them. I'm not going to plant a flag on ability.
Yeah. Sean Siegel had an article that just went up yesterday, and he made a very persuasive comparison to the Falcons backfield when Tevin Coleman was drafted. Tevin Coleman's ADP jumped Freeman, and then Freeman finished as the RB1 that season as the incumbent. And, Sean's making the point, Vaughn could still have a very good career and could be a great player, but he could just not get caught up to speed enough to dethrone Ronald Jones in year one. And to your point, I think you do want to be taking shots at both of these guys, knowing that this offense is going to have a ton of scoring potential, and whoever gets the majority of those touches is going to be a very valuable fantasy asset.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so funny. Like, we spend all this time on Twitter being like, oh, like running backs don't matter. And then, we get into one of these situations and we're like, Ronald Jones is better than Keyshawn Vaughn, It's like, oh, that kind of flies in the face of everything we've been saying.
Well, it's funny you say that too, because, Pat and I have been doing those mini episodes for Ship Chasing, and, he's way more in the weeds than I am on the running back prospect profiles. But to your point, I look at these guys and I just see the same similar dart throw on all of them, obviously there's some I prefer more than others. But on the whole, like we are throwing darts here, and we're just trying to make slightly better probability decisions. And it is fun to be tribalistic about, give me Tariq Cohen over David Montgomery every day of the week. But at the end of the day, we're just throwing darts in this range.
Yep. The volume.
Someone thinks there's a couple of people that think we're doing a randomizer draft right now. John on Twitter said, draft a player who's been on at least 3 teams in his career. That'd be a good prompt. And then someone just said, Wheel, you must draft all 4 of the LA Rams RBs. I mean, that does not sound like a fun night.
Oh gosh.
Okay. We are up here in a couple of picks. Let's check the board here. Keyshawn Vaughn is here. Let's just look at the wide receiver board. I know there's some guys that are interesting to me here, but I think based on ADP, we can almost wait on some of them. I kind of am interested in some of these running backs. I mean, Breida, Vaughn, Kerryon Johnson, Tevin Coleman, Lindsey. Which of these guys jump out to you?
Yeah, I think it's either Breida or Vaughn for me. If I was picking one, Vaughn obviously has the upside we just talked about by virtue of being in the Tampa Bay offense, and Breida just went. So there you go. I mean, I'd probably go with Keyshawn.
There we go. This is it's so nice to get away from Pat. I can draft Christian Kirk. I can draft Keyshawn Vaughn. I'm way away from the tyranny of his biases. I do think it is Keyshawn Vaughn and Rojo should be going pretty similarly. And it is just wild to me because I just assumed that everyone hates Ronald Jones. He's going to fall. I thought he was going to be more like the Darrell Henderson. Like everyone's done with him. And yet if you would have told me that Keyshawn Vaughn would be going later than him in drafts, like when the Bucs drafted him, I would have lost so much money betting that he would be going higher.
Yeah. Oh, we'll make this pick first.
Yeah, let's make this pick. So we did lose Breida. My guy that I've been going with here that I think is undervalued is Zach Moss. But you can talk me into carry on or
no, we're doing it because that we get the extra correlation with Josh Allen.
Oh yeah,
Zach Moss is probably could catch some passes, and I think all the readings on Moss right now. I mean, I don't see how him and Singletary are, 4 rounds apart or whatever they are. It doesn't really make much sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we sound kind of like a broken record, but I think the big macro takeaway is these backfields, the ADP is reflective of overconfidence and how it's going to shake out. And you and me are just going to take the cheaper one every time. If Singletary was going here, that's no knock on Moss. If Moss was going 3 rounds earlier, we'd grab Singletary here. But it's just like we can't definitively say, so just take the cheaper one.
Yeah, just take advantage of the uncertainty of the situation and the certainty of the board, which is great.
And the nice thing about, people will look at our team and they will naturally think it's gross because that's one of the main reasons people can't get on board with zero RB is because they don't like looking at a beautiful starting lineup. They feel uncomfortable. But Keyshawn Vaughn and Zach Moss are both guys that are going to have what I would feel confident in saying is an immediate value week 1 with some kind of a touch floor and then massive contingency value if Ronald Jones or Devin Singletary were to get hurt. And that to me is the definition of a good zero RB target.
Yeah. And the thing that I think really makes this such a great year for zero RB is so many running backs are going early and these guys are still falling into these, like late single digits, early double digit rounds. And it just like sometimes I have to double check to see like who people are taking, because I'm like, how are these guys like still RB, whatever, I don't know, 30 or so. And but they're still really good values. Like it's just crazy how that works.
Yeah, it's sometimes too, like, in the draft Pat and I are doing, where we're trying to kind of predict, because it's a slow draft, and how teams are going to fill out their roster. And it's always a bit tricky, because we were trying to think the thing like, okay, someone grabs 3 or 4 running backs early, maybe that these 0 RB targets aren't going to be as attractive to them. On the other hand, the people love running backs, and they will still keep drafting running backs even after they already drafted 4. So sometimes I can't even be like, let's just get our wide receiver here, because maybe they're trying to fill out their wide receiver depth. Nope. They might go ahead and grab their 6th and 7th running back. It's just how people draft.
Yeah, I was just listening to the one you guys did where you took Boston Scott, and like just going over the board before that, and you were like, yeah, like these guys had 4 running backs. Like we didn't think, and like 2 of the guys we wanted, and then our backup guys that we wanted went. It's just like crazy how that works.
It is. Willis points out team 9, pretty nice start here. So yeah, he got the Tyreek Hill in round 2, Mahomes in round 3, and then gets McCole Hardman here in the 9th round. Pretty nice team there to start with Dalvin Cook. Any other teams that stand out to you that you like here? Eric Belair has a true 0 RB team with us, going with the Ronald Jones, Marlon Mack as his running backs. What do you see?
Yeah, Belair's team, obviously. I mean, I don't know if he's pandering or if this is just how he drafts, but that's my kind of team right there for sure. Especially like I love the Dak, Gallup, Lamb stack. I think is really undervalued. I mean, Lamb in general I think is undervalued, but like the offense in Dallas I think is going to be exceptional, and those 2 guys are being discounted I think versus Amari, and he got all 3, so it's just you can't beat that.
Yeah, I saw Leone in a main event draft. They did a similar stack, the Prescott, Gallup, Lamb stack. I think it's definitely very nice. Lamb, in the 8th, it seems like a teeny bit pricey in a vacuum, but not in the context of this contest and already having Dak and Gallup.
Right, exactly. And I feel like he usually even goes later, maybe like in the 10th round. So that's and I think is great value.
This is this might be one of the earliest I've seen Burrow go here. Pick 109. Where are you at on Burrow? Because I feel like one thing we're always trying to figure out is there a quarterback in this mid-round range that could have the kind of, outsized win rates that we've seen from Lamar and Mahomes in previous years? Is anyone a candidate for you in that regard, or does it just not exist this year?
Yeah, I think, well, for me, I think it's Big Ben, and that kind of tailors into what I was talking about with Juju. Burrow is fine to me, but I think he's just fine. Like I don't know if he can be like a QB1 right away. I do like the weapons and I do like his talent. But I'm not like super high on Burrow. I would say like Ben, Tyrod, if we have any like confidence in number of games he's going to start, not necessarily saying in this format, just in general. Yeah. And kind of like Minshew also. So like in terms of like deeper guys that could go up.
Yeah, I need to start drafting more Minshew. I think what's happened to me is because I've been prioritizing kind of taking some shots at mid-round QB more than I used to, that I'm not drafting as much super late, but yet I love Chark and I love Shenault, which means I need to have more Minshew. Yeah, and I think that the thing that you hit on there is like you want to still attack the middle of the draft with quarterback, because those ceiling, it's kind of similar to the tight end argument. Like you still need those ceiling weeks, and only so many guys can kind of give you those big ones. But yeah, it's okay to take a shot. Like the one I did before, I got the CMC, DJ Moore, Bridgewater double stack, and I like that one. Okay, so we're going to have an interesting decision coming up here. I think you can make a case for basically every position. You had mentioned Roethlisberger. We could probably sit on him a little bit longer unless you want to lock that up with Juju. We still have some of our zero running back candidates in Kerryon Johnson, Phillip Lindsay. I don't know if anyone else jumps out here. And then wide receiver, maybe we can still wait a little bit there, but there are some interesting tight ends now too. We're entering that sweet spot for the breakout tight ends. How are you leaning here now that we're on the clock in the 10th?
I lean towards Gesicki just because I think I actually think like if you're just projecting, he's actually like a tier above this group. So that's kind of where I go. I think he's gonna have a big year.
I love it because again, Pat is out on Gesicki, so I'm just cheating on him hard. You know, some people have an emotional affair. I'm just having a full out emotional and physical affair just away from Pat. I mean, just completely reckless, and I love it.
You're gonna have to inundate him with Tony Gonzalez's slot snaps when he was coached by Chan Gailey. He'll change his mind.
It's true. It's true. Hey, Anthony, you know, I was wondering if we'd be able to successfully trigger the people, but running back round 7 is weak. Michael Derrick is officially triggered. Oh my goodness. What happened? My lover has a spy cam. He's watching. Okay.
Google alert went off.
What are we doing here? Should we grab another running back? Carry on. What do you think of Carry On? He was part of the write-up that Sean just did, but we got 30 seconds.
Yeah, he's fine. The only question I'd have for you is how concerned are you about one of Breeze or Ben not making it back to us? Because I do want to kind of prioritize that, I think
that's a fair concern. And we want to prioritize it. Which one do you want to do? I mean, I think Breeze wouldn't come back. I think Roethlisberger would. We got 8 seconds.
Let's wait. Let's take Ben.
Oh God. This is going to be so close. Get it. Whew. It's a good thing I got practice. As Tom Everett Scott said, I have these quick, nimble little fingers, but man, you put me under the gun there.
Sorry.
No, it's all good.
I just don't want to, I think for me, like, I just don't want to miss the quarterback, you know, and I get like the Breeze and Thomas obviously are pretty well correlated with each other, but I think I have been, I think, projected outright for more points, so I actually just think he's better.
No, and I mean, I just asked you who you thought could have that leap into the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks, and you said Roethlisberger, and so we already have Juju, who we invested significantly in. Might as well lock up that stack here. It also frees us now to really kind of punt QB3 toward the very end of the draft, and we can do some, you know, funky stuff with, you know, we want to get a little Dwayne Haskins stack with McLaurin. You know, we can do some cheap stuff.
Right. Yeah. And you might not even, you know, we have 20 rounds. So obviously, like, I think the allure of like a third quarterback or a third tight end, like, is definitely greater. But I think, you know, for some of these teams, just going super, you know, basically just taking 4 total quarterbacks and tight ends and just being loaded at receiver and running back, I think is also something worth considering.
Yeah. Yep. And we, you know, because we are in a really good spot now with both quarterback and tight end and wide receiver, we're definitely entering a range here where we need to hammer some running backs, and still lots of good 0 RB candidates on the board. So I think we're, it's so funny. You know what was it back in the day? It was like the blue dress, gold dress, and some people saw one of them and some people saw the other. That's like you and me. We look at these running backs and we're like, oh my God, look at this. This is loaded. And then other people look at this, they're like, this is the grossest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. And Carry On is interesting. I mean, I did read what Sean wrote on him, and I definitely think that he has, like, I think this late, he definitely is a value. I don't know, just like something about him, I just couldn't pull the trigger.
Yeah, so Sean's he's been doing that series about, like, if you like this guy, you could get his kind of production and volume later for cheaper. And so he had done the David Montgomery and then getting Kerryon Johnson and Ronald Jones later with the kind of similar thing of, you know, these are all guys who were projecting to be the kind of 2 down ball carriers on their team. Obviously, the Kerryon one gets a little trickier depending on how high you are on DeAndre Swift, but again, it's just people are making assumptions right now where I think, you know, Swift and Johnson should probably be going back to back in ADP.
Yeah, I could definitely see that argument. I think that, like, the Detroit backfield, like, what separates to me Detroit from maybe Buffalo and Tampa is that I think like the inclusive, like a third running back basically being included in that mix is higher probability. because they drafted another back. They have a couple other guys there. So we'll kind of see, I guess, how that shakes out.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, our friend Blair Andrews at RotoViz, he was starting to make the case, Blair, the one who, a lot of people will try to give me credit for the Patrick Laird movement. That originated with Blair on RotoViz, and he is now starting to call a shot a little bit with Raymond Calais on Tampa Bay.
Uh-oh.
So that would really throw a wrench into all of our Keyshawn Vaughn and Rojo plans. Like you said, if a third running back is stealing some of that pass work, that would be really bad.
Yeah, I was talking about that with Leone the other day too, because I think he sees maybe that third running back possibly being included also, whether it's him or Dare. But I don't know. I maybe I just don't get the same vibe. I don't know. But we all, I guess, have to make a stand somewhere.
That's right.
All right, Blair.
Belair is keeping. He's got Pollard and Jarwin. Eric the Cowboy Belair. I love it. Let's check in on some of these other teams here. We're getting a little bit of a QB run here. Probably good that we got ahead of Roethlisberger. Look at this run. We might have lost him.
That's the confirmation bias we need.
We did it. We did the right thing. But the other bonus of a QB run and getting out ahead of it, and same with the tight ends, is now it's going to push some of these running backs down to us who haven't really gone off the board. I mean, what did we lose? Since then, we lost Madison and Scott. We can live with that.
Yeah, we're definitely comfortable with how this panned out. See, it comes back around. Before we had we had a little bad running back run. Now we're getting right back on the right side of variance.
That's right. Everything corrects itself here. I was really hoping Willis would leave Carry on there for us after we discussed him. And then Chase Edmonds goes. It did get a little gross here. Who do you think?
So I'm a huge AJ Dillon fan. I don't know a lot of other smart people that are. So I'm wondering if maybe I'm like the least smart person. But I think that he has like a role right away, and like all that touchdown upside that we saw with Aaron Jones last year, I think that could belong to Dillon in 2020.
So yeah, I'm on board with that. I think we can get him at our second pick just because his ADP is so much lower.
Oh yeah. You're right.
So who would be your
Duke?
second? Duke. Yeah, I don't have a ton of Duke yet, and I still think he is a good 0 RB target. So let's go Duke Dillon here. And again, it starts to give us, one thing Pat and I have talked about a lot, and I want to hear your thoughts too of, thinking about the different profiles of your 0 running back targets. We mentioned Tariq Cohen earlier. James White is the typical example of, those are guys that are going to give you more of a floor with their pass catching. How do you think about, different skill sets within your 0 RB targets?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to, especially like those first couple backs, I'm definitely trying to lock in someone that has,
bless you.
Excuse me, I like the players that have that built-in value to start. I think like pretty much all the research that I've seen this summer from like JJ and Pat and like a few other people, that like you want the guys whose value is not solely contingent. Like you want players who are going to produce some points. Now, usually that's going to be a receiving back, like a Duke Johnson. So I think actually like Dillon is kind of a rare profile, because typically like the guy like Dillon, who you'd assume is maybe like more active on first and second down and has touchdown upside, usually those guys move up the board and the guys who catch the passes fall. So I think Dillon is kind of like a unique profile. And that's another reason why I like him, is I think he just kind of looks more like a player who goes earlier.
So the chat and Pat, we're getting excited about Antonio Gibson here. Make your case for Dillon over Gibson.
I just think he has a better shot at actually capturing the whole backfield in a contingent situation than Gibson does. Like if Peterson or Geis goes down, the other guy is still there. Whereas I'm not really that worried about Jamal Williams in that backfield. I think that maybe you don't think that Aaron Jones is, maybe like the AJ Dillon pick doesn't say anything about Aaron Jones, but it almost certainly does about Jamal Williams.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing, it seems like I'm not as familiar with his profile. Can AJ Dillon catch passes? Would that be a part of his game?
Yeah, so he actually had like a decent reception share at Boston College. It's just that like BC barely throws.
Yeah.
So it's like hard to know. Some of the people that I talk to think that he is an adept pass catcher. He just hasn't really had any opportunities. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Like I can certainly see, the coaching staff in Green Bay just like kind of pigeonholing him into a first and second down role anyway. We'll see. But I don't think that he's Andre Williams. Like I think he's actually better and has a higher ceiling. And I noticed. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead.
No, I was going to say Pat mentioned in the chat that that's the same argument for drafting Zach Moss, and I agree with that as well because he's going to get those. He's going to get those touches.
For sure. And I think you might be just slightly higher on Dylan than me, but I think what we would both agree on is Aaron Jones' ADP is just absurd relative to the capital that they invested in AJ Dillon. And to just assume that he is not going to be a factor at all and you're drafting Aaron Jones like at a near best case scenario at his ADP, it's dangerous.
Yeah, like he's probably still going to catch passes, but I mean, that most of his value, I shouldn't say most, but like 30% of his value last year was on touchdowns. And now you're injecting like a Derrick Henry like presence into the backfield.
Yeah. And again, I think everyone agrees that Aaron Jones is really good at football. He's really efficient and explosive when he gets touches, but this, team has never shown a willingness to do that. I mean, Pat and I, were starting Jamal Williams multiple weeks last year because he was always getting 10 to 11 touches. And so if AJ Dillon gets that, maybe Aaron Jones's floor goes up a little bit if he gets more of the pass work. But yeah, if he loses those goal line carries and some of that first and second down work, he's in trouble. And then to your point, the contingency value if Aaron Jones gets hurt, I mean, AJ Dillon could be a runaway train.
Yeah, and this gets back to, I think, what we were saying before about not falling in love with player talent. Like Aaron Jones is like the number one example of that for me because, I mean, we love Aaron. Like you said, we love Aaron Jones. He's great, but, two different coaching staffs have basically decided that he's not a full-time running back, and that's kind of a problem.
Yeah. Yep. And, again, when we're talking about kind of macro trends here, I love that we're loading up on these rookies. We got Keyshawn Vaughn, Zach Moss, AJ Dillon. Again, I would make bets on all of these guys jumping a round or two in ADP by the time they get into training camp and we start hearing reports. I mean, what does it take? Just one thing of like AJ Dillon's been running with the ones in an even split with Aaron Jones. Boom, 2.5 round ADP, right? Just like that.
Yeah, especially since we don't have preseason. So like we're not going to have like people are going to be like even more starved, I think, for some of that information, and they may overreact more.
I know. It's just I was listening to a podcast. Chris Mannix, he covers the NBA and does boxing for Sports Illustrated. He's one of the, I think, like 10 reporters down in the bubble and talking about how limited it is. And they were asking what kind of skill sets the journalists will have in there, because normally it's like, oh, who can get a good quote? And he was talking about it's just going to be who can write scene, who can, just share what they're seeing, because that's going to be really interesting to the rest of us. I think that's also going to be interesting for NFL this year of like, what are the type of reports we're getting? Is it going to be even more Zapruder-like? It's like someone, 400 feet away with this lens. And they're like, I think that's AJ Dillon just got a handoff from Aaron Rodgers.
I just want to know how much better Devontae Parker is going to get this summer. I feel like that's every year.
I know. All right. We are on the clock here. Let's take a look at the board.
You know where we're going here.
Shenault?
You know where we're going.
Who?
Well, okay. So I was going to say Shenault, but we already have Big Ben. So I kind of think that getting James Washington on this turn would make sense for us.
Right. Yep.
And maybe you go ahead.
No. I think James Washington, I'm just looking at ADP. I think we can definitely wait on him. Are there any of these other running backs? I think, Joshua Kelly is pretty interesting to me. Do you think we should get another running back here first?
Well, it seems like by ADP, Hines is the only one that's at risk. So I would say maybe take Washington, and then we can come back to running back.
Okay, let's do Washington. We'll get our stack there, and now we have some options. So we did just add another. We have so many guys with week 8 buys.
It's fine. It's fine. It's totally fine.
Just relax, Peter. Just relax.
I mean, maybe we just take Shenault then, and then we just, we say, screw it, we'll get running back on the next turn. Because I mean, these running backs really just aren't super inspiring. I don't know. What do you think?
So to me, Josh Kelly, would be another interesting guy of just being like, what if he comes in and Justin Jackson isn't a huge part and he has that goal line role? I guess I keep gravitating towards the rookie black box, but I agree that it's not a particularly attractive thing. I just think Chenault will probably be there for us later.
Okay. Yeah, if you think Chenault will come back.
You like Hines over Kelly?
I think I do, but not necessarily with our build, because I think we already have a bunch of guys who are going to produce right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that Hines really has the contingent value that is going to make our team better.
Screw it. Let's take Chenault.
Let's go, man. We need a receiver that's not week 8, right? Let's go.
Exactly. I mean, I can't have Anthony Amico on and have a coin flip decision between a running back and a wide receiver and not take the wide receiver. And this is how I win the chat. Okay. The chat goes wild whenever we draft Visca. There we go. I'm telling you. Willis says, Pete, it's a good thing you did. He wouldn't have made it back to you. It was all on. Man. Okay.
Well, I think it's actually Pat who has said that he's like the best value maybe ever. And I kind of agree. Like, I don't know why he goes so late. It's like mind blowing to me.
Yeah. Let's see. Like, the one that's always weird to me is like the thing I've been saying is the situation Ayuk inherited when Debo went down. And even then Debo's not dead. Is the situation Chenault is already in, and you have a 3-round difference in ADP. Yep. So I think Chenault should be going right around here in the N'Keal Harry, Brandon Ayuk range in round 12.
I love it.
I think just all these, it is like, if you really think about it, right? I mean, what drives these ADPs for these unknowns is hype and training camps and preseason. And we have none of it right now. So they're not getting pushed up over the known things. And we're just getting insane values on these rookies right now.
Yeah. And it's weird because I feel like all these drafts that I do end up with, like, people will say, oh, nice dynasty team. And I'm like, well, that's just kind of where the value is right now. And like you said, a month from now, we probably wouldn't be able to draft this team. So that's fine.
It's also like, okay, go through year, looking at league winners over the years, and you show me the back half of an Odell Beckham year, the back half of an AJ Brown year. Show me when that's happening with a 5th-year veteran that breaks out massive 8 weeks into the season, right? When we see these breakouts, it's from rookies and 2nd-year players, maybe tight ends a little bit later, but it's like, no, these are the types of guys who break out.
Yeah. And I thought like Blair, again, like Blair's just so underrated, but like the piece that he did about, like those 1st-year receivers kind of being the only, like years 1 to 2 really being the only guys that like see their targets ascend. And I thought that was really interesting. Like, again, like the young guys are the ones that you want to target that are going to have the highest breakout potential. And like, it sounds so simple and obvious, but then we just like don't do it. I feel like all the time.
I think it just, again, it's the same. Isn't it the same concept too in GPPs, right? Where it's hard to play the guy that has, just from a field perspective, it's like, I don't want to play the guy that has a 0-point floor, even though he might have a 25-point upside. That makes me uncomfortable. It's like I want to just draft Jamison Crowder because I know what I'm going to get. And it's like, yeah, but Laviska Shenault could flop. Maybe he doesn't see the field for some reason, or he could have an AJ Brown-like stretch down the end of the season. And those are the best.
With like 6 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah. Oh man. And I am glad, because it seems like we're evolving in the debate, because it had been pretty hacky at this point to be like, well, the rookies are going to have a hard time getting up to speed. They don't get enough reps. And now I see the argument evolving. Defenses aren't going to be as good. Teams might not have a chance, but to play these wide receivers, rookies, because other guys are going to be getting hurt or whatever. Where are you at on how this season is unique for rookies relative to previous years?
Well, I definitely think that we're overvaluing the value of practice time for elite level athletes. Like this isn't like I'm trying to get my JV quarterback ready to play on Friday night. You know what I mean? Like, these guys have all played at the highest level already, and they're making that transition to the NFL. And that definitely is a jump, but I think the jump is honestly more mental, like, just in terms of like being ready with the playbook, stuff like that. But these guys can all ball. Like, that's why they're here. So like, and practice time in the NFL has already been limited over the last few years, just like with the CBA and all that stuff. So I don't think that practice time it's obviously has value, but I definitely think that we're overvaluing it if we're going to let these rookies fall as a result.
Yeah, and again, one of the biggest, we already believe in the talent level of a lot of these guys. There's a reason that we aren't falling over ourselves to necessarily draft Jerry Jeudy, because the path to immediate opportunity and the quarterback play isn't as strong. But to me, when I look at Shenault, in the projected opportunity, I see no roadblocks to him not being the number 2 target in that offense right out of the gate.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Chris Conley is like fine, but he's not that guy. We know that D.D. Westbrook isn't that guy. You draft Shenault, you draft him to be that dude, and he was I thought a tremendous college player. Obviously, was a 3-year player. Was like the whole team at Colorado. Like, I just don't see a lot of holes in the profile.
And again, we're talking about Shenault here as our 3, 4, 5, 6. We're talking about it as our wide receiver 7. We know we're going to have a really high target floor with guys like Michael Thomas and Juju. And then we're just trying to nail all of these, spiked week slam dunk guys or, rookie breakouts. So I like how this team is shaping up. We should probably start to think positionally. Obviously, we want to grab a few more running backs. You had mentioned earlier kind of the idea of like being set at QB and tight end just because we're pretty we invested capital there and just going more fragile to load up on running backs. Is that how you're leaning still?
Yeah, I think that if we're going to pivot off that, we can do that in the last couple of rounds and it won't really cost us much.
Yeah.
So it's probably valuable now to just get these running backs where we can.
Okay, now this is where we're going to really see our 0 RB constitution, Anthony, because, some of these other guys that we like, Armstead, Kelly, Darrington Evans, these guys are all off the board. And you're now looking at what some would call the bottom of the barrel, although there are a couple names here that jump out to me, the biggest of which is Lynn Bowden. Are you on board with this guy?
Yeah, talk to me nice, Pete. I mean, this is we're talking about a guy who, like, literally if he played half of his snaps at slot receiver or something, like, it wouldn't surprise me. Like, because he did it all in college. Again, another 3-year guy. Josh Jacobs, I mean, is he going to have a single reception this year? I don't know. Like, I like the way that the Raiders have kind of like deployed their backfield assets. So yeah, I think Bowden has a really nice ceiling, and I think he's like the perfect guy, I think, at this stage.
I do too. Yeah. I mean, I really like Darrington Evans. Pat and I were talking. I don't think there's a huge difference between, Darrington Evans and Lynn Bowden. I guess it just comes down to how much you think Jalen Richard's going to be involved. And if you start, I would say by drafting him, they're saying that they're kind of already starting to de-emphasize him in their offense.
Yeah, especially since they took him and like immediately declared him as a running back, which I thought was something they didn't have to do.
Yeah. Yep. In the fact that we know that they aren't too interested in giving Josh Jacobs a lot of receiving work, the fact that that's up for grabs and, like you mentioned, his versatile skill set, that's a very attractive pick in this range. Let's talk about our next pick here. Someone tossed out a name I'm pretty interested in, McKinnon. There's some other guys, Benny Snell, who's a little bit interesting. What else jumps out to you here at the bottom of this running back barrel?
I also like Gio, just because just so reliable behind Mixon. Like, if anything happens to Mixon, we've already seen Gio be like a full-time running back or close to full-time running back and be productive.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so I like him.
I guess there's still some hope from people, Terrence Williams, but I don't see much behind Gio. He's just not as sexy as some of these running backs, but has pretty similar immediate value and contingency value, I think.
Yeah, like Travion was pretty fun last year, I thought, as a prospect, but I think we can at minimum book Bernard for the receiving work. And that's probably going to be more valuable anyway. So I think taking the shot that he sees, at least half of those rushing attempts as well in a contingency scenario is valuable.
Yeah, and again, considering we aren't loaded from an investment standpoint at running back, it is nice with Duke Johnson and Gio to give us some, pass catching floor there in case we need to sustain a few weeks at the start where we're only getting 5 points per game from our running backs.
I mean, that's definitely never happened to a 0 RB team before. So it's
yeah, I mean, Last year in our quad managed draft that we did with Hassan and Blair, I mean, it was just a revolving door at our running back 2 slot. I mean, that was we literally started Patrick Laird 1 week, and that's where we were at with that team, and we got second in the league. I mean, if you have the firepower at the other positions, you can definitely survive without a great running back 2 option.
100%. I think that's the thing, like Leone's piece at ETR on like how he drafted the Scott
right?
Fishbowl thing. Yeah, like that's exactly how we're thinking, like when we have these flex spots and these other spots, like if you just think of them all as being flex, since they're all skill positions, like if your running back stink, like that's just your flex 5 or whatever, or your flex 6, like that's fine. That's not a big deal.
And I keep going back to the thing too of like, when you're running, when your last flex is that running back, it's going to be so much easier to project that opportunity for whatever running back you're putting in for that specific week. Whereas if your flex 9 is, I don't know, let's just toss out some like Nelson Aguilar level receiver. I mean, you can pray, you could try to look at the wide receiver cornerback matchups, maybe the Vegas total, hoping for a shootout, but there is nothing projectable about that fringe wide receiver in a way that just the way the season works and the way previous opportunity is predictive, it's just not even close with what you can do with running backs.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think once you start the conversation with the acknowledgement that running back volume is like just mostly a coach's choice and has nothing to do with ability, I think that just kind of like frees you up. It clears your mind, Pete, to do the right thing and to go 0 RB.
I was gonna say, I love it. It sounded like I was at this self-help seminar. You're like, what? or maybe it was like this therapy. It's like, once you just acknowledge, once you start revealing the inner truth about running backs, the world will open up to you. This is why I had you on, so we could just go back and forth, just oozing about 0 running back and how much we love it.
Yeah, we just want to get paid one time, and I think this is that time.
I'm telling you, I am getting excited. It seems like we're on the right track to get football. At the same time, we all know it's going to be a wild, crazy year as far as depth charts and injuries and scratches and everything. And I mean, this is the year of 0 RB. It's happening.
It's happening. And we were talking a little bit before the show, but been bemoaning the lack of quality best ball options, but that's starting to open up also. So we're gonna fire away.
So in the chat here, are you too comfortable with only 2 tight end, 2 quarterback in this format, even with COVID looming? I want you to answer this question, Anthony, with the caveat that it is tempting to go with this kind of structure of a tournament and just say that in a GPP, right? Like you can write off anything. But what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I think the coronavirus threat is a real consideration. I'm just not sure how much to price it in, right? Like if Roethlisberger gets coronavirus, like we're kind of dead anyway, right? Like I don't know. Like I'm trying to figure out like how we can avoid that just kind of like submarining the whole start of our team, since he's correlated with Juju and stuff like that. I have a feeling that we might come back to quarterback. But I don't know. Let's see how it shakes out.
Yeah. So no, I don't even care if anyone takes him, but I do. Oh, he just went. I said I don't care if anyone takes him because I didn't think they would take him. I was going to say Dwayne Haskins to pair up with Terry would have been interesting to me as a really late dart throw.
He definitely would have been the guy, I think, just because, like you said, we have the correlation, and I don't think Haskins is dead just yet.
Me either. And again, if we get the true, I think Terry can be productive even with subpar quarterback play. But if you get the ceiling from Terry this year and he's a top 5 wide receiver, I mean, Haskins is naturally going to have a great year.
Yeah, he's got to be some part of that for sure.
Okay, let's take a look at the board here. We have 3 more picks. I mean, quarterback and tight end is pretty gross here. We could always use more running backs. I kind of like Benny Snell. He's a guy where again, we already have a little bit of a Steelers stack going. I think there's some uncertainty with how that backfield's going to shake out. The beats always seem to have a good thing to say about Benny Snell. Pat and I argued about this, that he wouldn't have as much pass catching contingent value, but I still think he could have the early track to goal line work if something happened to Connor.
Yeah, we saw him produce, I think, in that role last year down the stretch a little bit. I definitely agree that the pass volume isn't going to be there, but when it's this late, you can't really be too picky, I don't think.
Is there anyone else here that can be our fallback that is interesting to you? I'll scroll through some names here.
Thanks, man.
We got some inefficient second-year wide receivers and Andy Isabella and Miles Boykin that have good quarterback situations.
Yeah, I would say let's take Snell, and then we can maybe hit receiver on the way back.
Yeah. All right. So we add Snell. That gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 running backs. Definitely in good shape there.
That information shows up like above your queue, right? You don't have to keep counting.
Wait, where does it show up?
Like when you're clicking, like you clicked wide receiver just now, it says you have 7.
Oh, goodness, man. Normally, I'm drunk and spinning a wheel when I do these drafts, so thank you for. You know what? I did know that. But I forgot it. We have 38 seconds. We do have 7 wide receivers, 7 running backs, 2 tight ends, and 2 quarterbacks. Thank you for that life hack. You want to look at wide receivers here?
Yeah, I mean, I really like Isabella, but we already have Kirk, so I don't know if we want to invest double in backup receivers there. Boykin is also interesting, but he's again a week 8 bye. We're just running right into these week 8 guys. We're running out of time.
We're running out of time here.
What about do you want to just lock in points with Gage? Is that low? Is that super?
Hang on. I got to do it real quick. Sorry, I just had to do whatever you said.
It's fine.
Yeah. I mean,
just to avoid the bye situation, and at least we know he'll be on the field a little bit.
Yeah. This is, I can't say I've taken Russell Gage, but I mean, who else is going to be? He's locked and loaded in 3 wide receiver sets, right?
Yeah, and like I think I was talking about this a little bit the other day, but I kind of think that in the late rounds, especially the last couple rounds, you don't need the guy to have top 5 round ceiling in the long run to be a tournament winning or a super valuable pick. Really, if that guy's giving you any value at all, he's probably doing better than most of the picks in this range. So that's why I think a guy like Gage here.
Yeah, and it's a good point too. When you look at best ball win rate data and league winners, I mean, some people, there's some players and running backs that can have great seasons. Like some of those dead zone running backs that you draft in the 3rd and 4th, they can be, have a top 20 season. They're not going to give you outsized win rates there. Whereas even a flyer who has a couple solid games super late can have a 10 or 11% win rate. I mean, they can still really move the needle.
Yeah, exactly. And like we were saying before, the fact that the depth chart kind of stops after him, and we already know, oh, nice. We already know that he's produced a little bit in that role. That's comforting, I think.
You know what? I will say I had a hard time getting excited about this pick, but the chat loved it. Perfect late round receiver. Loved the pick. I wanted Gage. Another guy wanted Gage. I mean, who knew we were sitting on such a gold mine there?
It's, I can handle pandering at this late in the draft. It makes me feel good. That's fine.
Yeah.
I need confirmation bias basically just in my life in general.
Excellent. So we're going to have one more pick here. Our own Mr. Irrelevant. What are you thinking here? Do we take another scratch off running back?
So I think it's kind of like a best player available situation. I don't know if we necessarily need to focus on any one position because our build is so balanced. So I think we kind of just maybe look to take whichever player we think actually has the best value, best chance to return, any usable weeks, basically, regardless of the position.
Okay. What about Vance McDonald and get another tight end and the stack with Ben?
Very sneaky. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I assume he's behind Ebron in some sense, but
right.
I think in that offense, all these guys probably get on the field and do some things. So I definitely can vibe with that.
See, I'm doing my my crystal ball, and I'm seeing into the future, and I'm seeing a Monday night showdown slate where Eric Ebron is priced at like 7,600 and, 50% of the field plays him. And Vance McDonald is down here at like 3,400 and he scores 2 goal line touchdowns. I just saw that in my mind's eye, Anthony.
We've seen it before, and we've seen it with guys that are worse than Vance McDonald. So in this offense,
let's toss out some other options here. Man, I will say this is definitely this has been a sharp draft. I feel like normally there's some guys I'm willing to take late here. Anyone else jumping out to you or a position you want me to scroll through the list?
I would say just keep scrolling. I don't know if we need. Let's just see what we're rolling with here. Because like Nick Boyle, I think is another guy that would have been interesting to me, but I don't think we necessarily want to handcuff Mark Andrews.
Yeah. Yep. Pat and I had that decision in our main event team, a little different when we're trying to win a 12-team league and protect the investment versus trying to get first place in this massive contest. We got my guy Patrick Laird down here. We got here's one guy that I actually have been drafting in a few spots late is Rex Burkhead.
Yeah, I was talking about this with someone the other day, actually. Like, we already know that Rex can produce. We don't know that about maybe like a Damian Harris who went like 6 rounds ago. I'm definitely a Burkhead fan. I don't know, again, like I know the Patriots are they're going to do Patriot things, but that in best ball, that's actually kind of good, right? Because, he only needs to play in a couple of spots and produce to be valuable. So he's definitely going to be in the queue, I think.
Right. And like, if we just do, there's lots of questions about Sony Michel. There's tons of questions about Damian Harris. We don't even know if the team even likes him or sees anything out of him. We know what James White is. But I mean, I think there's a realistic chance. And again, the Patriots shenanigans and all that. Damn it. Why am I'm going on these rants and then Vance McDonald and Rex Burkhead go. I am not wasting any of my time talking up Rex Burkhead if we can't draft him.
This is incredible.
Okay. So we have been sniped and I can't believe I just launched into a pro. I mean, what do you see here?
Well, I'm seeing like guys who are like retired is what I'm seeing. So I think we might have reached the bottom of the list. I don't know about you.
What about Justice Hill? What about taking a flyer on him again in that offense?
I just don't really see any way he gets on the field. I have a couple guys that I'm considering, and I'm like afraid to say anything because the chat is just lurking.
The chat is they really want to stick it to us. Someone's suggesting Mariota. See, we don't want quarterbacks with contingent value. We're ride or die with these 2 quarterbacks. We made that decision. I guess I can even unselect quarterbacks. I mean, you don't need to convince me to draft Patrick Laird. There's also Patrick Laird, and yeah, Patrick Laird is there. Okay, you can now you can speak freely here now.
So I kind of think that we're just taking one of Disley or Boyle. I mean, I think those guys clearly have the most value on the board. I actually really like Disley.
He took Laird. I don't care.
That's incredible.
Let's do Disley.
Yeah, I think like every time he's been on the field, he's basically done good things. And I think in round 20, just to get a guy that can produce when he gets opportunity, and maybe the opportunity is uncertain, we'll make that happen.
There we go. All right, guys, let's see here. This final pick will happen. We can do a little quick review of the team as a whole. It all started with us having the stones, the constitution to pass on one Mr. Saquon Barkley for the true zero RB experience. We gave it to the people today, Anthony.
Yep. A little peer pressure to get there. And, shout out to the listeners for getting us, putting us right where we need it to be.
I would say this is mission accomplished. We got our stacks. We're hyper fragile, true zero RB, tons of wide receiver firepower, strong tight ends. I mean, this is how you do it, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is a $10,000 team. Hopefully we get there.
There it is. Anthony and I, the only thing we do have to decide is when we ship. Anthony wanted to go put it on black. I was thinking a trip to Cabo. We will figure out the details. Anthony, you're over at FTN now. Plug your stuff. They got to check you out, especially on Twitter where you're dropping good stuff regularly.
Yeah, I mean, just check out all the stuff on the site. I mean, we have a lot of really great tools, I think, for betting and for fantasy. I've been doing a series on finding closing line value, and I'll be coming out soon, hopefully with a couple of NFL betting systems as we get closer to the season.
Awesome, guys. Thank you for coming out. We'll keep these rolling. We'll also have a randomizer best ball draft on Thursday. I think I'm shifting them to Thursday nights going forward. But for Anthony Amico, for myself, for Benny Snell, for AJ Dillon,